and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast. That is Brian Twining. I am Kyle Robert, getting you set for the Coca-Cola 600. Hopefully, Brian?
Probably on Monday, honestly.
Yeah, it sure feels like it. Obviously, we are talking post-qualifying. After qualifying got rained out, Xfinity got moved to Monday. Feels like we're going to get a race on Monday, but, fingers crossed. Hopefully we get a race in on Sunday. It would be really fun to enjoy. But either way, we're going to get you set. We're going to go through DraftKings, give you some more thoughts, some more favorite plays, build a lineup or two. We'll flip over, look at the betting board, update our card, figure out if there's any value as the odds have gotten really wild post qualifying. If you have access to multiple books, make sure you are shopping it because, my God.
I was just going to say, I feel like this week in particular really highlights the importance of shopping numbers because you'd be hard pressed to find similar numbers for drivers, top 10s, top 5s, top 3s at any sports book going into this race because we have zero on-track data heading into here, and the starting grid's all wonky. So yeah, this is a week where if it's available to you, shopping is extremely important.
Yeah. Let's throw up DraftKings. And let me fix the layout a little bit. There we go. So yeah, let's run through the lineup and get some thoughts out there. Kyle Larson starting 12th. I know he's 11,000, but my God, is he incredibly appealing. Somebody that we definitely think can win. His odds are shortened, even though he's starting 12th. Hard to pivot off of. Beyond him, we have William Byron starting on the pole. We've talked about it. 3 of the last 5 winners have started on the pole. Byron could be in front all day and just win the damn race. So 10-5, easy to get to. And honestly, I'm curious to see what his roster percentage is going to end up. He could be an easy guy to fade, but we've also seen him at mile and a half where he's been so dominant that he could just dominate all day. So we'll see what people end up doing. Denny Hamlin starting 4th at 10-3, and Ross Chastain rounds out the 10K range at 10-1. Starting 14th, Brian, let just, I guess, walk me through your thoughts on these 4 and then rank them 1 through 4.
Well, so I did a quick reconnaissance on last year's Coca-Cola 600 for DK scoring just to kind of get an idea of what you want to attack here. And it's clearly it's laps led and fastest laps. For instance, Denny Hamlin started on pole and actually won the race, but he finished as the 8th scoring driver in DK because he had very limited amount of fastest laps. He led very minimal amount of laps. He just, he kind of lucked his way into a victory here last year. It was actually Chastain who started 22nd, finished 15th, who led the most laps during the race, had the most fastest laps, who paced the field as the top scoring driver. And, so I feel like this week in particular, because we really don't know, we don't have a good grasp of practice speeds or any of that kind of stuff. You're really going to want to grab guys that have been fast at 1.5s or just in general heading into here. And, like you said, this may be the week where you need to marker in Kyle Larson because he's looking a lot like the 2021 version of himself, where he came here and led almost 75% of the laps and absolutely throttled the field on his way to victory. So, the 2 guys I guess 3, Larson, Byron, and Chastain are extremely intriguing for me.
I agree. I do want to see, I'm going to try and push us a little bit and see if we can start a lineup with Larson and Chastain or Larson and Byron. It might be gross. It might be a little gross towards the end. But if you're doing tournaments, I think it could be an interesting way to go.
Yeah.
Beyond there, we'll go to the 9K range where we have Martin Truex starting 18th, 9,900. I have a feeling he'll be pretty popular. Chase Elliott starting 6th at 97. Kyle Busch starting 5th at 95. Chris Bell, 93, starting 9th. Kevin Harvick starting second at 9,100, and Joey Logano starting 17th at a flat 9K to round out the range. Give me your favorite one or two names from this area.
As gross as it is, I almost feel like fading Truex here might be the play. And the Hendrick guys, Chase Elliott has a tremendous history at this track.
Yeah.
I think he might be on a lot of people's fade list because he doesn't come into here running as well as what we're accustomed to seeing. He's not starting as far back as we probably would have liked to have seen. And when you have two other Hendrick guys at the top of the board that are probably going to be in people's lineups, he's somebody that might get overlooked. So I feel like Elliott among this group is somebody that's piquing my interest the most.
Yeah, no, I think that's completely fair. Joey Logano is my name. I know you hate him, and I know he's your bitter rival, but I think he can win the race. He's starting 17th. He's 9K. And I also think he won't be very popular. So I think that is a nice pivot. But I'm with you. I think if not him, Elliott is really interesting, especially for a potential early dominator. And I like Truex. I know he'll be popular, so you have to kind of figure out how you want to attack it. I think if you lop off the top 10K range and maybe grab 3 of the 9K range, you could be like a little Truex, Elliott, Logano. That could be a way to be different. But like you said, just not taking Kyle Larson may be the end of
Yeah.
your.
Let me just say about the Logano thing real quick. Like, I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and don't get me wrong. This comes from a pure state of hatred towards him because anytime I back him, he crushes my card. But I'm just so worried about what we've seen from the Penske cars at the two most similar 1.5s in Las Vegas and Kansas, where they look great on the extreme short run, but could not maintain speed at all over a longer period. And I think we're going to get a lot of green flag laps here. And I worry that, especially for DK purposes, he might luck his way into a decent finish, a top 10 finish. But I just don't know if the car itself has the speed in order to garner, rostering to get those points for fastest laps and such.
Yeah, no, I think that's totally fair. I will say I think Logano would have had a better finish and a better day at Vegas if he didn't have that incident. I think that led to a lot of his woes. But yeah, no, I think that's completely fair, and I think a valid reason to fade him. But I also think if you want to be a little bit different and you're looking to be unique, I think he is a nice pivot in that range. The 8K range is really interesting. Tyler Reddick starting 15th. I like him quite a bit. Alex Bowman starting 31st is going to be really, really popular. Yeah. And for good reason. He's a Hendrick guy. He's starting 31st. He can move through the field. 8,600. I think a lot of people will find a way to click his name. And then the rest of the 8K range, where we have Ryan Blaney starting 8th, Bubba Wallace starting 7th, and Ty Gibbs starting 19th. A lot to like here. So it's really just a choose your own adventure, I guess. If you are going that route, where does your adventure hat take you?
Is there any doubt? Like, I'm like full in Michael Jordan 2311 this week, guy. I mean, Reddick was one of the first outrights I grabbed. I'm rocking the hat this week. Bubba and Reddick to me offer two of the best values on the board in DK. And as we turn over in a little bit to the betting market, Reddick was one of the best cars here last year before getting involved, hitting the wall and then having a tire go down on him. And then Bubba, again, like we keep saying this, he has been incredible at the first two 1.5s this year, finishing, pretty much close to the top 5 in both of those, and then being one of the fastest cars on track at a handful of the races since the beginning of the year. So I think a lot of people might fade Bubba, especially with that 7th starting position.
Yep.
More worried about the positions gained or positions lost without thinking about the possibility of him actually having one of the fastest cars on track and piling up those fastest laps, or even being able to maneuver his way into the lead and lead a handful of laps, which would just garner him a ton more points than what would be expected.
Yeah, no, I think he's a good pivot play, and I think will be somebody that if you want to be a little bit different, finding a way to include Bubba is definitely the move. Like, I think you could go with both of those guys. I think it'd be very interesting. To your point on, you were talking a little bit Logano, Ryan Blaney is kind of in a similar boat. Like I trust Logano more than I trust Blaney. Plus, you're getting the extra, starting farther back. I think he could be more solid. But yeah, both those guys have a big question mark coming in about how long they can stay. Keep it going. What's that long run going to look like, and can they put it in
Yeah.
position at come green white checkered to actually have a shot to win the race? But there's some interesting moves. Once again, if you want to be a little unique, jumping, completely missing the 9K range, going down, find some value in the 8K range could be another way to attack it. The 7K range is also really interesting. I think Daniel Suarez is a little bit compelling. Starting 24th at 7,800. Chase Briscoe starting 20th. Christopher Buescher starting 11th. Ricky Stenhouse starting 10th. Austin Dillon starting 33rd. I think will be really, really popular. Obviously,
Yeah.
first win here. But yeah, 33rd, 7,200, super easy click. And Ryan Preece rounds out the 7K range, starting 22nd. Like you mentioned, fast laps led are almost as important, if not more important, than
Yeah, like you're
moving through the
finishing.
field.
Yeah.
Does that make someone like Buescher, who we kind of fade in and out on, more compelling, or not really sure given his kind of lower expectations coming into the week?
Well, I mean, I like Buescher to, as a dark horse to top 10 this week, and even more so with him starting 11th. That being
Yeah,
said, RFK has been great. They've been fine this year. They've definitely taken a step up in, what they're able to put on track on Sundays. But in terms of where they stand in the hierarchy of speed, to me, they're middle of the pack. The person that stands out in this group has got to be Daniel Suarez. I mean,
yeah,
we're talking about Ross Chastain as a guy who's going to come out here and potentially be the fastest car on track. Suarez is out of the same garage. He was decent here last year before he got into some issues. He's been fast at particular tracks so far this year. Like this track going 600 miles, like 400 laps, you need to have speed. And if out of all of these guys, in my opinion, the Trackhouse car, the number 99 of Daniel Suarez, is the fastest car that we've seen so far this year of this group. So he
yeah.
would be an easy selection from these guys.
Yeah, no, I'm 100% on board. We talked about it a little bit with the betting. The big matchup of the week was Austin Dillon versus Chase Briscoe, and
Yeah.
if you want to be different, Briscoe at 76 instead of Dillon at 72 could be a way to be different. I might look elsewhere, but and it's all about what you do other places too, right? If you're a little bit unique
Yeah.
and you find some Bubba and you find some other stuff, penciling in Dillon, especially if you're playing cash, like he's a super easy click, because there
Yeah.
is a top 10, top 15, pretty reasonable outcome for him. Diving into the 6K range, we have Jimmy Johnson starting 37th, Eric Almirola starting 23rd at 6,700, Austin Cindric starting 21st, 65, Eric Jones, who has been really underwhelming this year, but it does like to go fast, loves
Exactly.
high speed tracks. This could be a good spot for him starting 26th. Eric Allmendinger and Justin Haley round out the 6K range. Jones is compelling. Almirola is, like, I don't know that I feel like he's amazing, but I also feel like he could be solid. But what we get from Stuart Haas each and every
I was
week.
just going to say, like
So that's
you're
like,
you're walking through a minefield when you're trying to pick out which
mhm,
SHR car is going to perform well. And
yeah,
then, in the same breath, if if I'm down on, the Penske guys of Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano, Austin Cindric is not going to find himself on any lineup that I'm building
yep,
personally. And then, as gross as it is, Eric Jones, of all of these guys, to me presents the best potential value here, because this is the type of track that he does like. He performs pretty well throughout his career at tracks that are a little bit higher paced and that kind of stuff. So, starting 26, Jones out of the Legacy Motor Club. I think even more so, again, like I wanted to hit on this, people are going to be gravitating towards Jimmy Johnson because of his past success at the Coca-Cola 600. But remember, he's driving the third car out of a garage that has looked like absolute dog doo-doo this season. So why would you have the expectation that he could do anything other than potentially crack the top 30, let alone get inside the top 20, which is where you would kind of want him to finish in order to, justify putting him in a lineup.
Yep, I'm with you. I will say Allmendinger makes a little bit of sense, especially given where he's starting. I think he could flirt with a top 10 finish, and given where he's starting, it could make some sense at 6,300. If you want to go a little stars and scrubs, Jones and Dinger could make a nice pair to save some value. We'll finish with the rest of the field where we have Noah Gragson starting 28th, Michael McDowell starting 30th, Corey LaJoie 5,500 is kind of interesting, Zane Smith, Harrison Burton starting 13th. The Gilly Gang is back in full effect, starting 35th. Ty Dillon, JJ Yaley, and BJ McLeod round out this range. If you are getting gross and you are scraping the bottom of the barrel, is there a name or two that you're like, hey, I could see a world where this makes sense?
I mean, of these guys, my personal favorite guy is going to be Corey LaJoie, but I don't know if he can, in the longest race of the season, the biggest battle of attrition here, I just don't know if he's going to be able to last. So, I mean, for me, it's got to be the front row motorsports guys of Michael McDowell, Zane Smith, or Todd Gilliland. And I would probably honestly just go with Mickey D. And I think he's owed a little bit more respect after. Yes, it was a little bit petty to go after Ty Gibbs, and you're a little bit upset because it cost you the the dual win there during the All-Star race. But I mean, he did something that a lot of people the last couple of years have wanted to do to Gibbs on track, and you got to pay the man his due. So I think McDowell is somebody that could surprise as long as he can stay on track. Like he's somebody that could put together a decent race, and especially starting 30th, the expectation for him is an easy top 20.
And I feel like he is a tier above most of these guys. So
yeah, for sure. Just in terms of skill level.
Okay, let's build a lineup or two. To Kyle Larson or not to Kyle Larson? That is the
question. Kyle Larson. Yeah, okay. I mean,
all right. I'm gonna push you into Ross Chastain and see what we can make happen.
All right, go down to Bubba.
Eric Jones, Allmendinger, or both?
Eric Jones.
Okay.
I mean, we could do a toss-up, whichever one you want.
Yeah, let's see where it gets us. So,
all right.
I think we agreed that Daniel Suarez was interesting at 7,800. Austin Dillon is 7,200. He's compelling, especially given where he's starting. And we're being a little bit unique, I think, forcing the two 10K guys or above, getting Bubba in there. Let me put Dinger in and see what it gives us. Yeah, so that gets us right to Suarez. Easy game. Let's build another lineup because I want to. That was too easy, and I don't want it to be so convenient. Let's see, NASCAR Cup Series, continue. Okay, so
all right. So here's a. What was I gonna say? Okay, let's build a lineup. Another one. No Larson this time.
Okay.
But we're gonna stick with Hendrick, William Byron.
Okay. Chase Elliott.
And fire on Alex Bowman.
I like it. Well, he's 86.
Yeah. And then and then I think here we go with Michael McDowell.
Okay.
We both kind of agree that of these, these super cheap guys, he offers the best potential.
For sure.
And then for what it's worth, looking back on last year's Coca-Cola 600, because of all the freaking chaos we had, I mean, it was the first year in the next-gen car, so you can't really expect the same kind of just chaotic type racing. The top 3 scorers all started 22nd or below, and 5 of the top 6 DK scorers started 14th or worse.
So Austin
Exactly.
Dillon.
So it brings up a different, exactly. So it brings up a unique opportunity to treat this as potentially like a super speedway, especially with the field being set by the metric.
Right. I think that's a great point. And then so that gets us to 83. I think Eric Jones and Allmendinger are both incredibly compelling if we want to leave some salary on the table. I think
We are at 83.
Ty Gibbs is.
I was just gonna say, we haven't really talked about him, but in terms of speed rankings, he was the 6th fastest car at Kansas. He's looked much better, and the expectation is that JGR is going to come out extremely fast this week.
Yeah,
and Ty Gibbs in the Xfinity series was really good here.
Where's he starting? 19th. Yeah, kind of like him. Yeah, I think so. If not Gibbs, who would be your next one? Suarez, probably.
Yeah, I love Suarez, especially where he's starting and the salary.
Let's go with Suarez. I feel better about it, especially with Dillon and McDowell and not having Kyle Larson.
Yeah, what's going to be crazy is that Kyle Larson is good. He's starting 12th, but I'll give it like halfway through stage 1, and he will be inside the top 5.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call.
Yeah.
Flipping over to look at the betting odds as they sit. As we go through these, you will see some abnormalities, some very different points of difference. So once again, if you like somebody, please shop it, because you will see, hey, I like, especially if you have access to multiple books. You may not have many books to attack, but I think you can definitely let me see. You can definitely find some value. The one thing I want to do really quick though is just show you guys what we have. Brian and I are getting really aggressive this week.
It's going to
Not
be
sure if
either really
that's a
good or really
thing
bad.
Yeah, exactly. We should probably take off the poll bets since they didn't actually happen.
Yeah, those can be erased.
So I have Byron outright at 7-1. I have Reddick outright at 16-1. I have. Oh, good. You're fixing it. Thank you. Joey Logano top 10. I have Reddick over Chris Bell. I have Tyler Reddick as top Toyota. I'm in on Tyler Reddick. I got Christopher Buescher at top 10 at plus 380. I'm really happy with that. William Byron top 5 at plus 125. I went Buescher over Stenhouse as my best bet. Feeling kind of good about that. Chase Elliott top 5. Kevin Harvick top 10. Bubba top 5. Bubba top 10 were all added when when was that, Brian? Friday when we
I think it was I think it was yesterday when the expectation was that qualifying was going to get canceled.
So Brian's like, okay, well, what can we find? Where can we find value? And who could possibly make sense? So we added that. So I added Harvick top 10 at minus 125. We'll see where these numbers sit and see if we actually did get value, but that was our thought at that point. Brian is on Byron, Reddick, Bubba, and he added some more Reddick at 22-1, which we'll get to here in a second. I will be joining you on that. Ty Gibbs to top 10 at plus 190. Larson to top 5 at minus 112. Thanks, Bet Rivers.
Right.
Bubba top 3 at plus 650. I like that a lot. I think, and we talked a little bit about that. We'll flip over, but Bubba really is a top 3, top 5 bet, not really a top 10 bet. I just wanted to split my wager a little bit. Blaney over Logano because Brian doesn't like free money. Bubba over Truex plus 135. Harvick top 10. Bubba top 10. And Reddick top 10. So let's go look at the odds and figure out where the value is. So Byron shortened. He was as long as 7-1, 6-1 in a lot of places. You can still get him at plus 650 at DraftKings. I still think that's a fine bet. I don't love plus 550 as much, but I do think there's a good chance
Hey,
that he dominates, and we've seen him on the mile and a half just be absolutely awesome. He won in Vegas. He won at Phoenix. He was good at Kansas. Like, there's no
exactly.
reason to doubt him.
I was just going to say, like, if we would have qualified, William Byron's probably putting this on the front two rows, and
Mhm.
he's going to have odds very close to what Kyle Larson's are. So,
Yep.
I mean, I think there's still value if you like Byron at 5.5 to 1.
I agree. Denny Hamlin at 7 or 8-1. You can get Chase as long as 10-1. I'm telling you, there's going to be a week. It could be this
Yeah,
one where
it's
he
true.
wins, and all of a sudden his numbers are back up to 5, 6, 7-1 range. Martin Truex 9-1, 10-1. Ross you can get as long as 11-1. I kind of like that. Obviously, not the inability to qualify kind of put him back a little bit farther than maybe he could have finished. Kyle Busch as long as 12-1. You can get Christopher Bell as long as 14-1.
Or
And
16
then
at DK.
16-1, even better. So I guess before we get to Tyler Reddick, do you have any additional thoughts in this range or anything else you want to add to the card?
I mean, it's really hard, especially with us not seeing these guys on track heading into this weekend. But I mean, from what we saw with Chastain last season, how do you not, comprehend or contemplate adding him at 11-1 on an outright when he's starting just outside the top 10? Dude has been a top 5 car at pretty much every single track. He should have multiple wins on the season if he didn't drive like a doofus
Well,
sometimes.
that
So I
that's
mean,
my concern is the length of the race that he doofus energy will come out, and
yeah.
but he also has time to make up for his doofus energy. So it's a little yin yang. We'll pick your poison.
And I actually wonder now, because we are running the longest race of the season and these guys did not get practice and or qualifying, if NASCAR is going to allow for some competition caution, like, 40 laps into stage 1 to allow
Yeah.
them to go down pit road, change their tires, make any adjustments they need to do.
Well, it is. I mean, there's technically 4 stages. So maybe they treat stage 1 as more of a practice to get comfortable, and then stage 2 is where they start really pushing it. But we'll see.
Yeah, yeah, true.
I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah. So I did add some more Tyler Reddick at 22-1. I love that number.
It's absurd.
And you can. I mean, he's still 16 other places. So like, I would happily take that 22.
Even
Uh,
at 16 though, like
yeah.
Tyler Reddick has been one of the best cars on track for a handful of weeks now.
Yep.
And, just because he's was set in the starting grid further down the board does not mean that he's not going to fire off extremely fast.
Yep.
And at 16-1, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we both were in on it at that price. So now that you can
Yeah.
get 22, it's crazy. And I trust Trackhouse. I mean, not Trackhouse, 2311, to be more consistent than RCR. So
Yeah, and
uh,
a little bit of divulging information here, but even at my offshore, like I fired on 14-1 Reddick because that's the number they offered. But I
yeah,
wanted to get some exposure to him before the possibility of the rain out of
yeah,
qualifying, because he was probably going to qualify extremely well as well.
yep, yep. And I probably will go back and try and add some more to that. Logano all the way down to 12-1 at DraftKings. You can still get him at 22 at FanDuel. That is live number. I did check that.
No
So
interest.
would not fault anybody who goes with the 22-1. I think that's a fantastic number. 20-1 is fine. I don't love 12. There's other guys way up here that I'd much rather bet Reddick at 22. I'd much rather bet Ross at 11 than Logano at 12. But I do think he makes some sense. Harvick, Bowman, Bubba's the only one that's kind of in this range that I would consider even for outrights.
I think
Um,
Suarez is extremely compelling.
did his
Uh,
number get a little bit shorter? I feel like it was
yeah,
longer.
I think he opened at like 35 or 40. We'll have to
Yeah,
go back and review the numbers, but I mean, again, he's had plenty of speed. It's just a matter of whether or not he can put together an entire race, which apparently is the problem of the entire garage of Trackhouse.
yeah. If you're looking for more of a lottery ticket, I don't think Ty Gibbs is a bad shout. Like 70, especially if it's 75 to 1. I mean, if you want to throw $10 on it and see what happens, I think he is improving. I think he's been really consistent. This is a place where we've seen people that maybe traditionally, younger drivers that don't have a lot of experience still find a way to get to victory lane. I think he could be a compelling option, and you could always wait to see how he does early in the race and still fire on him if you want to be a little more patient. But
for what it's worth, JGR has won 4 of the previous 7 Coca-Cola 600. So that garage and that team clearly has a good idea of how this race is run. One of those being Kyle Busch, who Gibbs essentially is in that car just with a different number. So I mean,
yep.
at 75 to 1, that is not a number to just scoff at. That is definitely something to add if you're looking for a long shot.
I think I'm gonna add it. I'm only gonna add like a tenth of a unit, but I'm gonna see what I can do. I put my money where my mouth is.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it, man. Like I'm definitely contemplating adding it myself, but clearly, again, we go back to the fact that you, Kyle, are in much better shape than I am for your year-long wallet. So
yes, that is also true. Where was that? Caesars. Yeah, I'm only adding
and
it
just to
for
recap real quick, Ty Gibbs and his 2 Xfinity runs at Charlotte, 1st and 2nd.
probably a better like top 10 bet. You can probably get a
Yeah.
really nice number, and we'll look at that for sure. But
Oh, did you just? I just saw it.
wow. We'll go through it. Larson
Yeah.
obviously ridiculous. These are top 10 odds. Bubba minus 110 to top 10 is fine. Tyler Reddick minus 105 to top 10 is fine. Let's see. Bubba, that's actually better. Brian and I bet it at minus 135 to top 10. So that's a good, if you can get to Caesars, that's a good number. What's Harvick? Minus 125 is what I bet it at. Minus 130.
Uh-oh.
What?
You might have to refresh your page.
Is it not up to date?
It's been bet down to minus 130. Whatever, I'll take it. Keep going up. Keep going. Yep.
Yep, there it goes. So, yeah, Caesars is finally catching up. So
the Reddick one still blows my mind though. Minus 105?
Yep. And he's minus 170 at FanDuel, minus 130 at Bet Rivers. So he's in this range for a reason. Bowman is interesting, but like we talked about, it is the longest race of the season. It's interesting for him to come back and get right in the car.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out. I got Logano at minus 105. I'm fine with minus 115 or minus 112. I don't know if I go to minus 130, but it does feel like a pretty solid bet either way. Ty Gibbs at plus 250 to top 10 is going on my card. If I have the cojones to put him on the card at a win at plus 75 to 1, I will take a nibble at plus 250 to top 10. Top 10.
Yeah, that's definitely a number worth adding.
Caesars. Who knew I'd be on the Ty Gibbs train, but here we are. Austin Dillon is compelling if you believe in him this week. Busher's still at 380 if you want to hop on, Brian.
That's wild.
Eric Jones at 380 I think is fine. 5 to 1.
The only thing I worry about is because Legacy has looked horrible.
Yeah. But you're getting him at 5 to 1.
I know, it's really not that bad. And if we get any sort of chaos,
Dinger is 7 to 1, 8 to 1.
I don't trust Colleague though, man. Like at these tracks where it requires a little more throttle time, I just don't know if they have the speed in those cars.
Yeah.
Like that's what I worry about with them.
That's valid. It's crazy to me. Top 3. You can get Larson at plus money to top 3. I think that's plus 135. That's a really good bet.
It is quite crazy though that he's plus 135 and then William Byron is plus 180.
You can get him 2-1 at Bet Rivers. Chase at plus 250. Chastain at 3-1. Logano at 4.25. You can get him at 6-1 to top 3. Jeez, I don't want to. My card is redonkulous, but my God, is it interesting. 6-1 on Reddick.
I think there's
20-1 on Gibbs. Would you rather, if you had $10, put $10 on Gibbs to top 3 at 21, or 75-1 to win the race?
Wait, restate that?
If I gave you, here's $10, you can go to the window and you can either bet 20-1 to top 3, or you can get 75-1 to win the race.
Oh, just give me the 75-1. I'm not even gonna play around with the top 3 bet, because if he's running top 3, he has the personality that he's probably moving somebody or just getting completely bulldozed himself and probably missing out on the top 3 in general. So
it would just suck to have him as the competing with somebody, and all of a sudden, name your driver, William Byron, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, inches out in front of him just enough, and he gets second, and you get nothing. But I mean, I get it. You go big or you go home. Ryan Preece is 70-1, so that's interesting. I don't think I'd bet that, but let's go to matchups, because that is where the fun starts. Can we find some values? Logano over Blaney, that makes sense. Brad K versus Suarez, interesting. Truex at plus 100 over Denny. If you're on the Truex train, I think that could be an interesting way to add a little bit to your card without going too crazy. Chase versus Ross. Byron at plus 100 versus Kyle Larson. But I feel like if Byron's beating Kyle Larson, he's probably like top 3, top 5 at the minimum, and I'd rather take my bets there.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we flip over to Caesars and see what else they have? Let's go to future bets. Actually, go to scheduled first. Reddick is plus 130 versus Bell. I got it at 125, so that's fine. Bubba at plus 130 versus Chase. Blaney at plus 110. Ooh, buddy.
Yeah. I can't go back to the well though. That's my problem with those type of things.
Brad Keselowski plus 275 versus Ross Chastain. I think Ross wins that the majority of the time, but plus 275 for a driver that has issues finishing the race, who could easily crash out, and that's really tempting. Because I expect Brad to be solid all day, like 11th. And you just need Chastain to have a rough go early and kind of right around in the 20s. It's probably not a good bet, but that plus 275 for a head-to-head is always compelling. Bowman plus 190 versus Denny is interesting too. It's just hard to get to him.
I'm off in my own little world right now, like adding a bunch more bets.
Oh no, Brian has lost it.
Well, okay, so here's my thought process here. One of the guys that we've just kind of glanced over and haven't even mentioned so far this week, and I think a lot of people are overlooking him, is Christopher Bell, because he's been less than stellar, and he hasn't really popped this season. But in terms of speed, he's been plenty fast at the majority of all of these types of tracks. He was a top 6 speed car at both Las Vegas and Kansas this year. And if he could just keep the damn thing on track and or avoid any pit penalties, he's driving a JGR car. I already mentioned it when talking about Gibbs, how good that team has been here.
Yeah.
Why can't Christopher Bell run in the top 5, run in the
He
top
absolutely
3,
can. He
or even
absolutely
compete
can.
potentially for a win?
Yeah, no, you're right. That's a good call. And it's really just about figuring out, because like I like him, but I like Reddick more for sure, and I think I like Bubba more. And I can get both those guys the top Toyota at plus 650 and 5-1. But yeah, I know you're right. Bell is somebody who isn't getting a lot of love this week. It could absolutely win this race and make us all look real silly. Question is, how are you getting exposure to him? It looks like top 5 is the move.
Yeah, I'm grabbing the top 5. 225. You're opening yourself up to a little more wiggle room there, and
Yeah.
And also too, you don't have to hope he finishes as a top Toyota at that point.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good call. I think that's spot on. Man, they gave us a lot of interesting candy this week, and we'll see what we end up picking up. But my word, let's go down to some groups. Dylan, Busher, Briscoe, and Stenhouse. Dylan at plus 240. Like, if you like Dylan over Briscoe, like, and it's minus whatever it is, for him to beat Busher and Stenhouse also at plus 240 seems like a much better bet. The Dinger over Almirola, Jimmy Johnson, and Ryan Preece at plus 280 is going on the card.
Yeah, I actually think that's a decent value.
I don't like Preece is a non-factor. I don't think Jimmy is really a factor in the third car, as you mentioned. And it's really against Almirola, and I think he can win that. So I will take the plus 280 at Caesars. Let's go to F. Reddick, Bowman, Bubba, Harvick. I kind of like Reddick at plus 290, but it's close enough where that's probably a no bet for me. Byron, Hamlin, Chase, Truex. Byron at plus 160, I don't hate, but I'd probably rather bet top 3 and not have to worry about him.
Yeah, you're getting much better value on a placement wager there.
Yeah,
and I think I wanted to go over to Bet Rivers real quick to check out their head-to-heads.
Give it to me.
Because there was one that was... Yeah, Daniel Suarez over Brad Keselowski is going to be added. In terms of overall speed in the car, to me, it's no competition between the Trackhouse and the RFK guys. Just like RFK has been much better. We've talked about this. I love Chris Buescher. Yeah, he was fantastic in that duel or whatever, the drive-in race. But in terms of what these cars can potentially put together on the track, I have much better faith that Trackhouse is going to put something. They're going to unload fast and not have to make as many adjustments than what we've seen out of RFK. Like, they're hit or miss on a week-to-week basis. So I'm going to trust Suarez here.
What's your number?
Minus 129.
That's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I would. It's not the type of juice I normally like to play, but
Eric Jones over Almirola at minus 105 is really interesting.
Ooh, they got some tasty matchups.
Yeah.
Like, look at Bubba over Elliott at plus 130.
Yeah. Truex over Larson. Harvick over Byron.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
You're right. I need to control myself.
Do it. Yeah.
Okay. Let's recap what we got. let's give the people a best bet and let's get out of here before our cards get absurd. This is
I'm already losing my ass this week, by the way.
this is a live betting opportunity, so save a couple bullets so you can fire at some outright, especially have a short list of guys you really love, and then if their number goes to something longer, you can hop in, assuming they're not, without tires or something crazy. So I have Byron at 7. I have Reddick at 16 and at 22. I have Ty Gibbs at 75 to 1. I have Logano to top 10. I have Reddick over Bell. I have Reddick top Toyota, which you can get better numbers on. Busher to top 10 at plus 380. Byron to top 5 at 125. Busher over Stenhouse was my best bet at minus 120. I think you can get that pretty close to that number. Elliott top 5, 130. Harvick top 10, minus 125. Bubba top 5, plus 250. Bubba top 10, minus 135. Added the Ty Gibbs top 10 at plus 250. And AJ Allmendinger over Ryan Preece, Jimmy Johnson, and Eric Almirola at plus 280. Brian, recap your card and give your people your favorite bet right now.
So at the moment, I only got 4 outrights. I may add a Christopher Bell tomorrow morning. It depends on if I'm feeling spicy. But I got William Byron, Tyler Reddick twice at 16 and 22 to 1. And then, of course, Bubba Wallace at 25. The top 10 in the placement market is pretty crazy. I got Ty Gibbs early in the week at plus 190. Because I got a full unit on that, I'm not going to go back to the well here. I'm perfectly okay with that juice. And then the other 3 top 10s that I'm adding today are Kevin Harvick, Bubba Wallace, and Tyler Reddick at minus 105, which is absolutely ridiculous. And then in the top 5 market, I'm going to hit up Kyle Larson earlier in the week at minus 112. You're not going to get this very much longer. So if you can find this anywhere under minus 130, minus 140, I think it's a smash. And then I added Tyler Reddick at plus 275 and Christopher Bell at plus 225 here. Top 3s, Tyler Reddick and Bubba, 6 to 1 and 6.5 to 1 are far too long for cars that have shown tremendous speed this year. And then the 2 matchups I have, Ryan Blaney over Joey Logano, which is my best bet from earlier in the week. And then I got Bubba over Martin Truex Jr. And then the last one was that I need to continue finishing writing here is Daniel Suarez over Brad Keselowski.
Yeah, I think that's a really good bet. While you finish that, I'm going to make AJ Allmendinger over Ryan Preece, Jimmy Johnson, and Eric Almirola my best bet.
Woo!
Yeah, I feel like Dinger is just in a different class than the rest of those guys. I feel pretty good about it. Plus 280. I'm putting 2 units on there. Seeing if I can cash me a winner. Brian, there is a lot of crossover between our cards, which I don't love. That either means we're going to both crush or it's going to be we're going to be coming on Tuesday with our tail between our legs, hoping we can climb out of the hole we put ourselves back into. What is your second best bet after making Blaney versus Logano your best bet from earlier the week?
I mean, is there any doubt? I am all in 23-11 this week. To me, the best value on the board is Tyler Reddick, top 10, minus 105, pretty much even. I'm going to go full 4. I'm going to go 4 units. The only way he doesn't top 10, in my opinion, is if he gets involved in a wreck, which is, definitely plausible at this track and for a race as long as it is. But there is no doubt in my mind that he has a top 10 car, top 5 car, potentially top 3 car, and a car that could potentially take home the Coca-Cola 600.
Yeah. So Brian has Tyler Reddick as his top 10 for a top 10 as his best bet. I have the Dinger over Preece, Jimmy Johnson, and Almirola. Dinger top 10 is also a different way to look if you can't find that, but plus 280 to beat those 3 guys. He could finish 17th and do that. I feel pretty good about. That is Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert. Good luck on DraftKings. Good luck at the betting window. Enjoy all of the race, and we'll talk to you next time.